If you haven't watched Jrue Holiday hoop in depth, you're missing out. His style of play is one of the most unique in the league. And making this video was honestly kind of difficult because of how many things he does well. But I broke down his offensive game under the microscope. And I'll have his defense in a future breakdown. Let's take a look. One thing I don't think most people realize is just how aggressive this dude is. Not necessarily a super tall guard at 6'4", but an absolute bull. Whether it's on finishes, drives, defense, whatever, he's got no problem being the aggressor and moving defenders out of the way. But he also has a ton of finesse to his game. It's interesting because his jumper is a pretty low, effortless release, but he gets it off really well and knocks it down. I do think this is partly why he barely shoots any mid-range, because that sort of one-motion shot like Curry and others makes it hard to control his power there. He really only shot 22 mid-range shots all of last season, which shows how good he is at getting to the spots that he wants to get to and not bailing out with mid-ranges. But what he does do is get to these short jumpers within about 15 feet very well. He shoots a good amount of them and knocks them down. Part of what makes him able to knock these down so well is that he significantly raises his release point. If he were to shoot these like he shoots threes, he'd have a tough time controlling his power and also wouldn't be able to get it off as well. And his ability to get deep into the lane in a controlled manner really makes these jumpers possible. Without being so in control and going at sub-maximal speeds down there, it'd be tough to knock down these shots consistently. But he's even better at getting all the way to the 10. He's a big 2-foot guy, which makes sense as a big guard. 1 foot is generally for the more wiry, elastic athletes, where stronger, more strength-based guys will use 2 feet to really exert that power. And Jrue is a perfect example of this. It's also more controlled, and you'll never really find him landing in crazy positions or shooting out of control layups. Part of the reason why he's been so damn durable and consistent over the course of his career. So let's take a look at some of the ways he uses 2 feet to finish. One is how well he bumps defenders down low. A lot of players throw their body around out of control, and it makes it difficult for them to stay in command of the situation. First, watch the speeds that he's attacking at. They're generally not above 70 to 80% speed, which makes it much easier to control your body in space. There's no need to always be close to max speed. Also notice how he lowers his center of mass on each bump. If you're standing straight up and down and someone tries to push you over, you'll probably fall. But if you're in a low, wide, athletic position, it's much easier to stay balanced. And this is the same in a dynamic environment here. In football, they have a saying that the low man wins. And here, this is 100% true. Also, notice how his power comes from below the belt. What I mean by that is that he's getting his momentum into the bump from his legs and keeping his torso relatively upright, not creating torque through his midsection and throwing himself at the defender. It's a slight but important difference. And all this leads to a very controllable bump that even if the defender pulls the chair, he can stay stabilized and finish the leg. And an underrated part of this is having that pop off the ground to elevate after the bump and finish the job. There's that short window to get that shot up after a bump, and we've got to be reactive enough off the ground to really get up before the defender recovers. He also uses 2 feet to rotate his body as he goes up, which effectively protects the ball. Off of 1 foot, it's kind of hard to distort your body and turn it to extend out to the bucket. But off 2, he's able to do this and change directions. And he does this very well where he'll attack straight at the bucket and then use a 2-foot jump to change direction laterally and finish. Also, he uses a ton of spins down low. I'm not big on most players turning their backs too often at high levels because it takes away that vision for a moment. But Jrue is a little bit different here. One, he's always in control as he spins. He's rarely at full speed in that area, so it's more of a power spin. And he creates a ton of contact many times to control that space. Also, some players like Jrue are more aware of what's going to be there after that spin. He's always cognizant of where defenders are, so he's never really surprised by oncoming defenders that he'll see after he turns his back. Also, in terms of finishing, his left hand is actually just as much, if not more proficient than his right hand around the rim, which is very, very unorthodox. And when players do unorthodox stuff very well, it goes against the norms of what defenders usually see. Like here, no other righty is switching back to their left mid-air like this. So the shot blocker is not expecting that. Finally, his last 2 strides are rarely straight and at a constant speed. And while this can be a Euro, it's a lot more than that. So slowing down to throw off the defender's timing.
Just saw it happening. Holiday with the steal, slows his body down.
Slightly stepping through to give kind of a misdirection effect.
Jrue Holiday off the highest screen, the Euro.
Decelerating to make a pass fake on that last stride.
It'll be Jrue Holiday all the way to the cup.
He gets really creative with these last two strides, and I think it's something that many players should add into their game.
He's scuffling. He was thinking Melly's on.
In terms of getting to the bucket, one thing that really helps Jrue get to that rim is his ability to drive in a somewhat straight line. The vast majority of players drive primarily in that curved fashion around their defenders, which makes sense because you can't go straight through your defender most times. And many times Jrue will do this. But you'll also see times where he's able to literally just put his shoulder down and go in a damn near straight line, serving as the aggressor and plowing defenders out of the way. And even when he does take a little bit more of that rounded attack, he holds his angles very well. You'll rarely see him get bumped off his line to the bucket. And that's impressive against taller defenders that are on him many times. Because of this, defenders tend to move back as he approaches them, which allows him to attack from pretty close in.
Pocket 18 points, 55% from the field.
And I think something that's really underrated about him is that he's not just an off-the-dribble guard, considering that he only goes ISO about 9% of the time. So he's great at finding other opportunities that don't require breaking the defense down off the dribble. His pump fake is crazy effective, especially because he raises up onto his toes, and then he's able to drop into that drive efficiently. Nobody is not jumping on that.
Fumbled it away a little bit.
And he can score off the ball. He actually had a good amount of buckets as a roll man this past year.
That's a great job of that. Holiday. Nice.
He finds ways to catch it and lay it in or dunk it around the basket.
The dish to Holiday. Sneaks.
Averages 7 rebounds a game.
He finds open pockets of space on the perimeter like an experienced shooting guard.
Lonzo Ball finds Holiday. And they'll catch a real rhythm in the first. Can they find the rhythm here?
I would even say he even leads guards in putbacks. So all these buckets that aren't flashy, these are the ones that are most valuable. And in terms of the pick and roll, I'm not going to say much about this, but I honestly don't know if I could name 3 players in the league with better pace off of ball screens than Jrue. He may be top 2 to CP3. But I may cover that in a separate video. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Definitely going to make a separate video for that defense and keep breaking down his game. Make sure to follow me on Instagram at ByAnyMeansBasketball for how you can apply this stuff into your game.